This is Eitan Weinstein.
And I'm Naor Menninger, and you're listening to Two Nice Jewish Boys.
This podcast is sponsored by The Forward. Stay up to date with unlimited access to news, culture, and opinion all through a Jewish lens. And for our listeners, for 2NJB listeners, get 6 months of The Forward for $15. An exclusive subscription offer for our listeners, forward.com/2NJB, and get 6 months for $15. Also in collaboration with Arutz Sheva, IsraelNationalNews.com. And last but not least, in collaboration with Australian Jewish News, check them out at ajn.timesofisrael.com. Naturally, there are feelings that we don't enjoy. Feelings we feel we'd be better off without. Hate, sadness, fear. Fear, what a useless emotion, right? Almost a century ago, at his inaugural address, a different inaugural address than we just had a few days ago, FDR said those now famous words, "There is nothing to fear but fear itself." But hasn't fear been ensuring our survival since the dawn of our species? Would we really be nature's apex predator if we didn't have that cautious, neurotic, loss-averse coward we all do deep down inside? Kfir Itzhaki has been fascinated with fear all his life. He faced fear time and time again. As a professional martial art fighter, as a Fauda-style mista'arev in the Duvdevan unit of the IDF, and as a citizen who stormed an Islamic terrorist during the Second Intifada. Today, Kfir lectures on fear and the art of dealing with fear. And his new book, Unconventional Weapon, is all about utilizing fear to our advantage. So we are super thrilled, not scared at all, to have Kfir Itzhaki on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Great, thank you for having me.
So
Before we start,
this episode, guys, in Kfir, is sponsored by Masa Israel Journey. Okay,
Yes.
so if you're listening, you probably have some kind of interest in Israel. Masa Israel Journey is the marketplace for long-term opportunities in Israel where you can explore your career path. Okay, you can live out your passions and make a positive impact on the world. During the pandemic, Masa also created options to study and work remotely from Israel. So you don't need to pause your life or you don't need to know Hebrew, but you do get funding when you apply. So learn more. All you have to do is go to masaisrael.org/Two Nice Jewish Boys.
fascinating opportunities.
Yeah, really. You got to check them out, guys. I was on Masa programs myself. One of the big reasons I'm here today is because of Masa. So check them out, masaisrael.org/Two Nice Jewish Boys, spelled out Two Nice Jewish Boys.
Yes.
All right.
So thank
Let's
you
get
to our
to it.
sponsors, and hello, Kfir.
Hi,
How are you?
great.
So you don't feel fear probably ever.
Well, that's easy when you carry, right? Earlier, tell the story.
Yeah, so I picked up what I thought was your phone, and I was like, wow, it's really heavy, but it turned out to be a gun. So tell us.
Concealed.
Yeah, conceal carry.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't fear anything if I had a gun, but
Well, I have a gun, and I fear a lot, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
It would be a genius book if you were like how to cope with fear, and you open and own a gun, and that's the book, right?
So what do you fear?
Everything you fear, everything that everyone fears. That's the difference, I guess, is the way I fear and how I handle it and how I use it.
So can you tell us like your biggest fear?
I would say that my fears are changing and evolving as time goes by. So a couple of years ago, I would say that this specific fear was the most intimidating. And today, maybe there's another fear. For example, before my daughter's birth, I remember that my biggest fear was being out of control. So, and of course, you know, in Hebrew we have a saying, "Et asher yagorti yavoli." So what you fear, this is what you'll get.
Mm-hmm.
And
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. And so losing control, not being in control, that was a huge fear. And this is one of the biggest fears for all humanity, I guess.
How did it actually? What do you mean it actually
Manifest.
happened? How so?
So my wife was about to get birth. We were about to go to the hospital. And then she told me, I cannot stand it. And then she just sat down, and I understood that it's going to, maybe something will happen. And I called MADA, 911. And they told me, prepare the towels.
Oh my God.
And heat up the room. And I tell them, what do you mean? She's not going to give birth. And they tell me, well, it sounds like this. I mean, what do you mean it sounds like this? Because she was saying a couple of phrases that usually women say before they give birth, like she was saying, I'm pushing. And I was innocent. I was saying, what do you mean? You're not giving birth here, right? For me, after the birth of my son, I said, I don't want to be again in the labor room because I'm out of control. You know, the nurse, and she was in control, and then I had to just watch, like, behind the curtain and not do nothing. And for me, as, let's say, a combat specialist, not doing nothing is sort of a small suicide.
Wait, but I didn't understand. So you ended up giving birth to her, or
Yeah. So
Not giving birth, birthing her.
birthing
Yeah.
her? Yes.
yeah, so that's what happened eventually. That he told me that. I told him, no, she's not
But
going.
that was baby number 2.
Yes.
Ah, okay. So the first time
I said, yeah.
all by the plan.
Yeah.
Second time,
Now, because of my, let's say, trauma from the first time, I said, I don't want to be there again. I don't want to face this. Next time you give birth, I'm outside the room.
yes.
Just give me the baby.
But you didn't plan for it to.
No.
So you had to deliver.
Yeah, I delivered my daughter,
Oh my God.
and my son was screaming on my leg. Because he was frightened because my wife had a lot of pain. She didn't have epidural.
How old is he? the time?
3. Right now I think is 2 maybe. It
No.
was at 2.
Yeah,
When so we already understood the fear, the fearful situation. And she told, like, she was also in pain. He was screaming, and my daughter, bottom line, I'm holding my daughter and she's not breathing. And in that moment I had to implement one of the tools that I explain in the book or in the lecture, and I really implemented it. And this what helped me, let's say, raise and the idea of how to help her popped in my head. So it was brought from my subconscious to the conscious mind. And I recalled that in the first labor, the nurse was, scrubbing the back of my boy, of my son, because this way I didn't know that they're trying to make him breathe, and scream and cry. And I was doing that. And half a minute before, I was in complete shock, holding my baby. She's connected with the umbilical cord. And
Wow.
this is a shocking and terrifying moment. And
Your
Where
wife is.
The F is Mada. Did they not show up?
what?
They didn't show up? They just
Ah.
didn't show up? Mada?
Mada
They didn't get there
showed
on
up a couple of minutes after she was out and I was holding her.
Oh my God.
They're
She
like,
also-
all right, everything's good here.
Yeah.
Bye.
Not. Yeah.
Yeah, that was...
Someone called us. But what did your wife? How was she reacting to the situation when the baby's out and not breathing?
She was screaming at me and she's saying, why...
Do something.
Yeah, do something. And then I had to, cope and say everything is okay, because I was about... I thought my wife was about to pass out of pain, And I told her everything is okay. And I'm in shock. So this is a situation, and my baby and my son is holding, screaming,
Oh
and
my
no
God.
towels. The room is cold, relatively cold, and
And you cut the umbilical cord?
no. So I was waiting. So Mara arrived after a couple of minutes, and they did that.
So you can leave the umbilical cord attached. I mean, I have no idea. I've never been in this situation or anything near to it. You can leave
Yeah,
it
you can
attached.
leave it
Okay.
for a few minutes, I think.
Yeah.
But how did you make the baby breathe in the end? By technique of rubbing?
Yeah, I was scrubbing
Mhm.
that one,
Mm-hmm.
her back, and
Wow.
and I also cleaned her nose
Mm-hmm.
because she was full of liquids
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and she was suffocating from that.
Mm.
So you have to clean it. And
So how? By blowing into the mouth or something, or blowing? into
I
the-
know I just try to pull it and to open her mouth and
Wow.
take it out.
And
You
the
know-
moment you see she breathes, it's like
And she's not breathing like in the movies. Meh, it's not like that. She's breathing barely, like small breathings of a baby just born. She didn't cry, so we were still in shock.
wow.
So you mentioned, this is just insane, but you mentioned that you use techniques to deal with your fear, and that's what helped you get to the point where you realized even what to do. So how did you deal with it?
Yeah, so the technique that I used in that case was a tool that I call him in the book. When you're in a stressful situation, when you're in shock, what you should do is, first of all, realize that you're in shock. Like, understand and admit that you're in shock. Admitting that you're in shock and say to yourself, right now, I'm afraid. I'm really afraid right now. Now, there is a cliche of, we're being taught when we're scared to say, beat the fear, overcome the fear, don't fear, no fear. This is a brand, no fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that the brain doesn't work that way. When you're doing that, you're basically facing a wall. Your subconscious says, oh, really? You're not afraid? I'm going to show you that you're afraid right now. You are really afraid. And when you're doing the opposite, you're cooperating and saying, okay, I'm really afraid. I'm super afraid. What happens is something really interesting. The fear level drops. So I can just try this with you right now and with our listeners. If you will now if you have an exam tomorrow, you're afraid of dealing with the person in your life, or you have a specific fear, I want you now, you can just repeat the phrase, I am right now scared of David. I'm right now scared of my exam. I'm right now scared of my illness. When you're saying that, now repeat a couple of times in your brain, what will happen is the fear drops.
Why?
Because you are breaking the resistance. You see, we all know that where focus goes, energy flows. So if you're focused in something, then the energy flows there. The problem is that the human brain is working by a negative default, means he is negative by default. He's thinking negatively in default. Now, let's take an example. Think of something that you have to deal with. Are you saying to yourself, and what happened it will be super successful? And what happened if I will be so amazing in that? And what happened if it goes well? Do we do that? We don't do that. What do we do? What happened if I fail? What happened if I lose? Mm-hmm. Because the defense mechanism is stronger. So when you understand that, you're not even trying to break this. When you're saying, okay, I admit, you take the fear from the subconscious, you put it on the table, and the fear was, until now, was a monster, right? It was the unseen monster. Because what the fear is fed from? From the dark. The children are afraid of the dark because the dark is a symbol of the unknown. So when you're putting it on the table, you're shining the spotlight on him, on the fear. Now, the fear doesn't have anything to eat from because he was eating from the darkness. When you're putting it on the table, he has no food.
But the problem is when you go from thinking techniques to actually doing the action, right? I know it from like dating and hitting up on girls. If I have friends not me. I have friends who sometimes who have issues with that, right?
Yeah.
And the fear. So I can tell them like what they should do and how they should think. But then when they need to actually do the action, they just can't do it. They're just paralyzed. So how do you bridge the gap between thought experiments and actual actions?
You now ask the $1 million question.
That's why we brought you.
Yeah.
But the thing is that probably those guys in that moment are like, you know, what are you telling them, or what is anybody that's standing by, you know, a good wingman supposed to do? Dude, you're amazing. You're great. You're gonna, you know, you look great. You have nothing to fear, right? And that's maybe the opposite. It's like, dude, I understand it's scary as hell. Like, you don't know what she's gonna say. You don't know if she's gonna reject you. Like, that's technically what you should be saying.
Right. Instead of saying, don't fear, you have all the...
Nothing will happen.
You have the looks, you have the brains, everything is okay. It doesn't interest the subconscious. The subconscious says, dude, what you're doing now, you're putting yourself into a danger. Because for us, in the brain is, you know, we have two main parts in the brain. I would say the prefrontal cortex and the back brain with the amygdala. It's what interests us. The amygdala it's a gland. It's like the Waze. So it recognizes dangers and it puts you away from them. The problem with the amygdala is that it doesn't recognize between real dangers and challenges. So for the amygdala, every change that you make in life, every move that is a little bit different from your routine, for the amygdala is a danger of survival. Survival means death. You think, maybe, you know, someone will reject me. No. The amygdala interprets it as a survival danger.
But why?
Because this is a defense mechanism. Imagine that every time you put your hand on a boiler, like a hot water, imagine that you would have to calculate and say, oh, this is a boiling water. I should take out the hand because otherwise I'm going to get burnt. No, it doesn't happen like that. What happens automatically? Boom, you take out a hand. Because, for example, if you get cut in your hand, what happens automatically? You don't just say, okay, there is a cut in the pinky. Please send the vitamin K. Please send the blood cells, white blood cells. No, it happens automatically because the subconscious runs our life, and the reason is efficiency. We would not be able to live if there is not an automatic pilot working for us. We would use and spend too much time in calculations. Like, you know, for us, it looks so obvious that we know how to walk, how to play ball, how to play the piano. But what happens is an automatic mechanism. And when you understand that, then you understand that your thoughts, what you're feeling right now, there is nothing to do with the thoughts and you. When you're making the tool that I want to present is disconnecting the stimulation from the reaction, disconnecting your thoughts from you. So your thoughts are not you are not your thoughts. This is an idea it's hard to take in. So when you're about to approach a woman, a girl, and you think she will reject me, understand that the person, the campaigner who says that is not you, is the back brain, is the amygdala, who interprets this action as a survival.
Falsely interprets.
Yeah.
Well, you know, until she rejects you.
Yeah.
Then it's like, I told you so.
Until she pulls out a gun and shoot you. This could happen also.
But depends where you're picking up women.
In Israel.
So, okay, but let me ask you: do you think that because you're describing fear as like the survival instinct, right? This emotion that's tied to our drive to survive. Is that the only place where fear is really useful in a situation where you're at risk of getting shot or getting killed or whatever? Or is fear useful also in day to day? Is it a good thing?
As human, we should use fear wisely. So we don't need to work only on survival mode, as we are not animals. So animals work by survival. Most people work by survival. We want to work consciously. So when you understand that fear is not only for survival, because we understand the amygdala, we understand that it's not survival, right? 99% of the cases, you're not going to die, right? When you understand that, so the fear could play a role of, for example, which I discuss, fear is a very strong indication that you're on the verge of a breakthrough. When you feel fear, as human, need to understand the fear says, look, man, you are about to make a breakthrough. So please make the plan your plans, also get a backup plan, and now let's get it on. For us, fear is an indication for a breakthrough.
Brace for impact, basically.
But what if I can't help but think about, to me, the best scene in modern literature that deals with fear is from Dune. I don't know if you guys read it, the sci-fi book.
You're going to have to paint us the scene.
So the hero, he's destined to great things, right? And in the very beginning of the book, a woman wizard from a cult, she comes to test him. And if he passes the test, then he's really the Messiah. And what's the test? She gives him a box, and he needs to put his hand in the box, and she puts a needle with poison to his neck. And he asks what's in the box, and she says pain. But if he takes out his hand, she kills him and he goes through great pain for a few good minutes, like excruciating pain, and he passes the test. And then he has this mantra, הפחד הוא קוטל הבינה. Fear is the killer of insight. I don't know how it's in English, but he keeps telling himself, yes, of knowledge, and he keeps telling himself that, and that's his mantra, and this is how he passes through. So my question is, he knows the fear, he should be afraid. So then your technique is maybe less relevant, because what if the fear has basis? And you are going to suffer greatly.
Right. So first of all, fear is not a system error. We should fear. Fear is good. We don't want to eliminate fear. We don't want to overcome fear. We want to understand what it signals. So in some cases, it signals real danger. Now, when I say survival, I don't mean that by getting rejected or failing in an exam, you're going to die. I'm just saying that the subconscious think that this could lead to death. But why? Because if you're trying and you're trying, you're failing. If you're failing, this means that you don't worth nothing. If you don't worth nothing, you're gonna not succeed in life and eventually die because of that. This is the interpretation of the subconscious. In some cases, as we understand that fear is an indication for a breakthrough, in some cases we need to understand, okay, the fear signals something. So we need to divide it to two general heads of the fear. On the one hand, if you will eliminate your fear, you're going to die, really, because you're going to stand on the top of the Empire State Building, right? And you say, I don't have any fear, and you will jump. But if you're standing right now on this chair here, and you're super scared that you're going to die because you fall, this is a wrong spiritual movement of fear. This is too much already.
So if I know, but again, back to my question. So if I know I'm afraid because something like I have an operation or I have tooth treatment. I know it's going to be very bad. I know it. So then how do I deal with the fear?
All right. So first of all, as we said, admit, accept, understand that it makes sense. Okay? When you say that and you repeat the mantra of I'm now scared of this, you have to try it. The fear drops.
Yeah.
And
The truth is, it applies to pain as well. Like the same approach. Like if you say I'm in pain right now, and you take a step back and you try and recognize the fact that you are not your pain, like you're not your fear, and you're not your thoughts, then it also helps to reduce.
I want to tell you something. We want to feel strong fear before an operation. We want this.
Otherwise, you're a psychopath.
Yeah. This is a good mechanism. How could you eliminate such a fear if you're eliminating that you're insane? But we want to reduce the fear levels or to take it and use it as an earned energy. If you're now you're standing in front of someone with maybe, talking aggressively with you, and it might lead to violence. Then this fear is good because the fear is going to send by the hypothalamus. We have a part of the brain. Hypothalamus is in charge to send the signals to the physical body. So it sends the signal to send them for the blood flow, for the heartbeat, for your pupils to
dilate,
to your hair to be small,
to stand.
And
We don't have a nice fancy name for it.
So tell us a story from your life. There's the story. Can you tell it? The big one.
All right. The big story,
Yes.
you refer to the terror attack.
Yes.
Okay.
What year is it?
It was in the end of 2015. I was in my car. I was about to pay my tuition in Rishon LeZion. I used to live in Rishon LeZion back at the time. And then I hear screamings of many people, running all around. And I understand that something is going on, and I look for something in my car to, like an object to protect myself or to use it. This was a time of it's now called the
knife intifada.
Yeah, the knife intifada, also referred the third intifada, because, it was daily knife terror attacks, like
of individuals who had nothing to do with each other. It wasn't organized.
Right. And that's why it was so dangerous, because we could not track them. It's hard.
You didn't have your gun at this time?
No. I had my gun because of this terror attack. After the terror attack, I say, next time I don't use any Krav Maga. I don't use my hands. I don't have, I just shoot.
Yeah, bring a gun to a knife fight.
Okay, so what happened?
So I go out, and then I was almost run by a car, and by this time my heartbeat is already 200, and I see like an aggressive running guy with a black coat. It was pretty hot, so it's a suspicious sign, right? We have suspicious signs in combat. You need to recognize suspicious signs. Basically, two groups of signs: appearance, body language, and also we have appearance first. Of appearance, it's what it wears. Like if it's summer and he's wearing a black coat, then it's suspicious, right? And body language is eyes, sweat, voice, the location of hands, etc. And equipment, what he's carrying, if he's carrying a bag or. So I recognize this, and I understand that probably this is a terror attack. And then he's stabbing an old lady in her back. She's immediately falling down, and this was a shocking moment. And
But you were in Duvdevan.
yeah, but I was also already a civilian, and I was not with any gear, any equipment. I was not with my comrades. I was about to pay my tuition. I was so out of. I was not in a combat state of mind. This is completely from 0 to 100.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in Duvdevan you probably don't see stabbing of old ladies in the middle of the street, right?
Yeah, this is a hard sight.
Yeah.
You see other stuff, but you don't see that probably.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
So I leap over her. I was, in a split of a second, I had to calculate if I'm going to stay and help her or proceed. I decided to proceed because the first principle in combat is to first neutralize the threat and then help the wounds. So I do that, and I run towards him, and in that time that I was about to engage the physical contact, I begin to think about how they would take my mother, how I died, what happened, why this happened. Like I feel a lot of sorrow because of that, on my mother, on my father. Because in knife, this is what I teach in Instinct in our organization, that in knife, it's either you die or you get stabbed. Like it's really probable to get stabbed and severely stabbed. I understand that, and I tell myself, like my body tells me, stop. So I have a block. I feel that my legs are becoming really heavy. Like I'm really not able to run. Like I was running, you see in the movie, but I felt like my body was paralyzed, but I was keeping running, and my lungs were flat of fear. But then I had this sentence popped in my head repeatedly. לא תעמוד על דם רעך, which is from the Torah. Do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. And so I have a strong conflict between this sentence and my survival. Like this is real survival now. This is not a game. And so I think about this, and then I'm almost paralyzed, but then I keep in לא תעמוד על דם רעך, לא תעמוד על דם רעך. I understood that I'm the only guy probably that could probably beat this terrorist. I have the skills. I should do that. And this is an important point that I explain in my lecture. When you have a strong, deep subconscious belief in a certain value, this will harness fear for your advantage. So if you have, let's say, a challenge in your life, sit tonight, make a cup of coffee, and ask yourself, this challenge that I have in my life, what is the value behind what I'm going to do? So you're now creating this amazing podcast. But before you began, maybe you had the feeling of fear, the challenge, it's the first thing, it's the first time maybe. And then you could sit down and ask yourself, what is the value behind what we do here?
Fame and girls.
Fame, money, fortune.
And you're kidding, but if this specific reason is strong enough in your subjective world, this is good enough. So make a list. And then make.
By the way, when
you're delusional, but
no. By the way, when you storm a terrorist, it's also you could also become famous, and girls will be like all over you. So it's also a great motivation, I think.
Believe me, you don't think about it.
Okay.
So this is a tool that I say you can find the value and this will harness the fear. Why? Because there is a strong passion of the subconscious to create equivalence, to create let's say
a comparison
at'ama.
Okay.
At'ama, like to fit between the subconscious and to the subconscious mind. So it would basically what they do, it would say, so my subconscious pattern is the value of saving lives. So, okay, now we are going to use the fear in order to implement and take into action our values. So I understand that I'm going to go for it, and then I shout at the terrorist, like, whoa! Like a strong shouting.
Was he with his back to you?
Yes.
Okay.
He was about to stab more people, so I wanted it to turn towards me. So he turned towards me, and this split of a second was like a movie, like it was like it was freezing moment. He was looking at me. He was hesitant, and I see the knife with blood, and then I say, "Oh, Kfir, now let's see if your training was worth a while." Again, but no gear, no guns. You're naked now, right? So I decided on a certain technique of a push kick. It's like jumping with a push kick because the methodology says in this moment, specific moment, it was the right thing to do. I jump on him, and then he fled to the store. And in that moment that he fled to the store, I knew inside that this guy is mine.
You actually kicked him, or
Yeah.
okay,
I
and then
kicked
he
him.
fell.
No, he was, pushed back, and then he fled to the store and tried to stab the cashier. And he actually cut her shirt. And then,
Why did you know he's yours?
because, first of all, energetically, I felt that. And second of all, tactically, you're with a knife. I hope that terrorists don't listen to this podcast. You're with a knife. You have a huge advantage over me. And you could stay and stand and stab. Instead, you're running away from me. Just let's imagine the situation in his head, in his brain. He's severely stabbed one guy on the bus.
He's scared shitless.
Yeah, and then he stabbed another old lady. Imagine the morality of this person talking about morals. And then he was trying to stab more people, the cashier. And then there was before that, there's someone like a lunatic shouting at him, turning and jumping on him while the others are running away from him. So, it's in combat, we have a principle. Your attacker should understand that you're crazier than him. Now, you need to be a psychopath, a controlled psychopath, we call it. A psychopath under control means that you use the characteristics of a psychopath in combat. So I really became crazy man for a second, with functional crazy man, And in some moments in life, we should be crazy. We should just be crazy. Because another tool that I talk about in the book and in the lecture, breakthroughs mostly happen when fear is present. So sometimes you need to run into a storm and find the solutions as we go.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? You need to jump into the storm, understand the fear is there, and breakthroughs mostly happen when the fear is present. Imagine in your life that fear is present, then you made the podcast. Then you were able to approach this guy that you wanted to have business with. When the fear was present, you work better, you are sharper sometimes, and you need to run into a storm and find the solution as you go. Okay? Trust that maybe the solution would pop out in the stress.
So you didn't run into a storm, you ran into a store, and then, which is, in this case, much scarier. And so what happens?
Yeah, so and then I take like a stand of a lot of, it was like a, cream store.
Oh,
Far-
no.
What?
You threw a cream at him.
Yeah, so it was a cream store. It was, and then I take him and crash him to the corner to create an advantage, like a tactical advantage.
He's still holding the knife?
Yeah, he's trying to stab me, and I'm using the stand of products, and I'm crushing him, and I'm crushing him, and I'm crushing him, and he just wouldn't stop. And this guy has only one option: to die. Like he doesn't feel the pain. You understand the adrenaline that he has? He doesn't feel any pain. I was crushing him, his face, his body, everything. And then I understand that the only thing I could do, I need to cut the oxygen supply to his brain. Otherwise, it would just continue. And so I did. While doing that, I was, approaching for a choke. You can see that in the video, actually.
But you were in front of him, right? bashing him.
How is he not stabbing you in the neck or, I don't know, anywhere else?
Because I was protecting and crashing him with the.
You were blocking him with your arms, and
No. It was a strong stand, like a really wide one. You know, it was.
But and then you moved behind him to choke him.
No, then eventually he kneeled.
What?
He kneeled, just from the crashes somehow, and he was trying still. And then I implemented another technique, deploying the knife. I went for the hand of the knife and made a technique to deploy the knife. And then we were all both fighting over the knife. But it was all creamy. So I couldn't get the knife because I said, okay, God. I get the knife, then I'm done with you, pal. So I couldn't get the knife. And then I said that I'm just going to throw it at us out. And this is what I said, throw it. And, funny, in the hospital, there was a nurse that was taking care of me, and she was saying, you're the guy from the terror attack in Rishon LeZion? And I say, yeah. So he says, how come you smell so well?
Your skin is so soft.
And I tell her, it was a pharmacy. It was cream all around, Like the only thing that was...
You should get cream for the rest of your life.
It's like even in the midst of a terror attack, I exfoliate.
I'm a man.
If
man needs to.
If you're, I always say, if you get into a terror attack, at least, get out with the class, classic.
Don't forget to moisturize.
So how did you end up choking? So after you threw the knife, you just reached for
I reached for his neck with my right hand, and I crushed his throat. And
like you see in the movie when you take and you do this movement and you just...
No, I didn't crush like totally. Like I was suffocating him.
Okay.
And then I went for the rear naked choke, and I choked him until he passed out.
Could you kill him?
Yes.
If you wanted, and you chose not to.
So what happened? Look, it was a chaos, man. It was a chaos. What happened is that I'm choking him, and then is all the like a lot of saliva going out of him. He's about to die, and then the police officer arrived, and then they immediately took him out of my hands. And
if they wouldn't arrive, what do you think would happen?
Look, if he would resist, still resisting, my plan was to kill him. That's my plan, because operationally, there is not such a thing, a neutralized terrorist, unless he is handcuffed with 2 handcuffs on his hands and legs, and he's laying down on the floor with his face to the ground. I was in Duvdevan in an operation. I was handcuffing a guy behind his back, and he was beating me with his tooth. So you see, and beating a person is dangerous. It could do damage. So it's not really neutralized. So I'm talking about complete neutralizations. This is what I think operationally. And while I was choking him, he was taking glasses from the ground, and he was trying to cut me. Like he was on the verge of dying. He's still operating as a fighter. So he's cutting me. Now, this is not a neutralized guy. So
it's hard not to think of certain big stories.
Yeah.
When you mention that a neutralized terrorist is
Elor
either
Azaria.
a dead terrorist or
I don't know if there are.
I don't know if I want to get So Elor Azaria was when in 2012, 13,
something like that.
Video came out of a soldier who there was a terrorist that had in the West Bank
Hebron.
who had tried to commit a terrorist attack, and then he was shot by soldiers. And he was lying on the ground, still alive. And
Not
then
neutralized.
not handcuffed,
handcuffed.
or anything like that. And a soldier by the name of Elor Azaria shot him and killed him. Point blank. Not point blank, but from a couple meters away. So I don't want to get too political, but I mean, I have to ask what you think about that.
And he faced jail, essentially. And in Israel, there are 2 movements, right? Those who say, if you come out of such an attack and he's alive, you failed. And those who say, like, we need him alive.
So this discussion is, we can divide it into the moral discussion and the professional discussion. If we talk about morals, I can 100% say a terrorist should be dead. But I do agree that coming after 15 minutes or that it doesn't look good. Like it looks as if I understand, but I would say, I was in scenes, the terrorist was about to die, and the fear that you fear when you see a terrorist lying with the coat on the ground, the only thing that goes into my mind is that he's wearing an explosive belt. So I think about it operationally. This was the policy in the second Intifada. You have videos of terrorists being executed on scene from the distance because they were suspected to wear a belt. Things have changed. As you said, this became already a political issue, and things have changed. It looks much worse right now to do this such a thing, but operationally, it's really dangerous to leave a living terrorist on scene. And unrestrained. This is so not professional. The whole scene of Alor Azaria was a complete chaos. And this guy.
So your scene was complete chaos.
Right, but I didn't have the chance to wait 10 minutes and then decide if I kill him or not.
Yeah.
It was on scene.
How bad were you hurt, by the way?
I was hurt by all the things that were thrown at me. Like there were people trying to throw things at him, and they injured me. I was actually injured from them, but it felt good because
he didn't manage to stab you severely.
I suspect that I have a stabbing in my leg. The doctors didn't tell me 100% that it's from the stab, because I was cut all over my body with glasses, and
you couldn't tell which is which.
Yes, I think, honestly, I think that he stabbed me. I didn't get the 100% from the doctors. I think, because maybe I recall that moment that he was slicing. It was so chaos. I don't remember.
You don't really feel the pain at that moment because there's so much adrenaline.
No pain. The medic approached me and he tells me, "Dude, I have to take you to the hospital." And I tell him, "Why? I'm good."
What do you think? Yes.
And then I see a river of blood going out of my leg.
But what do you think to yourself the moment you realize you are not going to die today?
What do you mean? When
right after you disabled him, right? Then you realize you won the battle, right? So what do you think to yourself then?
I would say nirvana. You know what is nirvana?
Yeah.
Complete chill. Full adrenaline, but at the same time, complete chill, because you understand this is over.
Did you feel something similar in your service, or this was nothing compares to this?
When you break in a house of a terrorist, your heartbeat is about to get your heart is about to get out of your chest. After half a minute, the whole house is under control and the terrorist is down.
You have your friend.
Yes. But when you're taking the terrorist, you recognize that, okay, this is the terrorist. I have him. I would say that is a similar feeling. I was attacked by terrorists in my military service. I know this feeling. But I would say that this was the most aggressive attack that I have experienced, because I was alone with no gear. So it's a little more intense.
Is it the first time they drew blood?
What do you mean?
Is it the first time a terrorist drew blood from you?
Your
me?
blood.
Yeah.
Let's think. Yes.
Can I ask something personal?
Yeah.
The kippah, was it there before, or is it a consequence?
Everything is a consequence, but it's not a consequence of this event.
But it was there
It
before?
was not before.
Okay.
I'm coming from, let's say, a very traditional home. So I grew up in traditional home, and but I always had, let's say, one step ahead in that terms. And as time went by, I became more, let's say, spiritual. I was looking for answers, and I was exploring the whole world of spirit, and in particular, not only Judaism, by the way. Like I have insights about a lot of religions and movements, and but in particular, the Judaism, obviously, was I was captivated, and I understood that this is how I'm going to live my life. And my wife is also religious, so I grow up.
She's scarier than a terrorist.
Oh my God! Don't get him in trouble. He's talking about his wife. Don't.
Oh, wives, man, wives.
But
It's the real terror.
isn't it? Oh God!
There's
Poor guy.
Sharon never gets 57 minutes in.
Yeah.
I'm safe, man.
I'm gonna cut it and send this to her.
I love you, baby.
we
I
should
love
add
you.
a chapter of fear of women in the book. Already.
But isn't it a little bit ironic because as they say, you fear God-fearing man, right? Being religious is being in fear of God.
אשרי אדם המפחד תמיד. This is what you refer, I guess. There's a sentence, אשרי אדם, it's like
ירא שמיים is what I was.
yeah. Yes. There is two phases of our relationship with God. Is יראה ואהבה.
Fear and love.
Yes, but actually יראה is not the
It's,
correct translation
yeah.
for fear. There is a different, I don't have the term in English. I don't think that there is
You're
a term.
humble and afraid.
Apprehension or...
It's like fear and humble.
Maybe fear, respect with fear, you know,
Yeah.
like out of a king, let's say, you're not afraid from the king.
Mhm.
This is a little different.
Mhm.
And so, as we said, fear is not a bad thing.
Mhm.
For example, if you're afraid, you don't want to, drive in red. How do you say?
You don't want to burn a red light.
Yeah, right. Sometimes the road is empty, complete empty from 2 kilometers. Still, you're afraid from the policeman, right?
You maybe, but others
Yeah.
in Israel not so much.
So if you're afraid from the police, then it's good. This is exactly the moment that you want to have fear, because maybe there is something that you don't understand. You need to have that. This is a humble of understanding. Sometimes we want to have the fear to prevent us to make an error. In the higher level, love is the real relationship. Like the Judaism says that the true connection with God, like the deepest connection with God, is by love. So when you're younger, it's based more on fear. Don't do that, otherwise you die. Now, when you grow up, you understand that it doesn't have to be like that. It's about more love and understanding, and assimilating is the hoot. Identifying with the values. So in the Judaism, we are supposed to become godly.
Mm-hmm.
And in many other religions also.
Okay. Amazing. Really inspiring stuff.
Yeah.
So the book is in Hebrew. If you speak Hebrew.
It's called Unconventional Weapon. Neshek Lo Konventionali. We were just talking about whether you're going to translate it, and you said you're considering doing some lectures in English. So keep an eye out for that, guys.
Yes. But you're doing lectures. Like if someone wants to book a lecture via Zoom abroad, they can reach
I
out.
have my flagship lecture, which is called Fear Wisely, in which I give the 10 keys of fear. We discard, I think, maybe 3 keys in this time, and the 10 keys of fear, which are powerful tools in order to prevent paralysis and freezing, and also how to use fear wisely in your life, in the routine and in emergency. And this is the lecture. And I'm considering maybe making, instead of translating the book into English, making a course, an online course on the book.
But in the meantime, people can reach out to you to
Oh,
order
yeah.
lectures. How
In
how
these
can
days-
people reach out?
I have my website, Kfir Itzhaki.
You spell
dot
that
com.
ITZ, right?
Right.
So
H-A-K-I.
Yes. Yes.
HAKI
I.
.com.
Yes, you can reach my Facebook, also my
We'll
Instagram.
put links.
Yeah.
And also you have an international martial arts
It's a
organization?
combat instruction organization which called Instinct,
Mhm.
Integrated
Where are
Israeli.
you operating?
We have branches in Italy, Switzerland, Mexico, in Spain, in Honduras,
Wow.
in Ecuador.
So how
Wow.
can people look into that?
Just Google them. Like, you can reach out to me, and also you can Google. You can just write Instinct, for example, if you want your country, Instinct Spain or Instinct Italy. You will find them,
Okay.
and they have locations. That
Probably
operate.
help if you do instinct martial art or instinct.
No, so it's
Krav
not a
Maga.
martial art. It teach more combat. let's say.
Instinct combat.
Instinct. Oh no, Instinct Integrated Israeli Combatives. This is the full name.
Okay.
We have a page, and
Amazing.
I give courses. You know, I would say 5 times per year. I fly around like to a couple of countries.
Nice.
Amazing, guys. So look up Kfir Itzhaki. Go to the website, kfiritzhaki.com. Look out for links on this post.
And rejoice.
Yes. And be afraid.
Yes.
Be afraid.
Before we go, we are sponsored by The Forward.
Yes. Forward.com/2NJB. You get a special exclusive offer for podcast listeners, 6 months for $15. So check them out, forward.com/2NJB. Forward is a great source for news, opinion, all through a Jewish lens.
Yes.
Forward.com/2NJB.
Also, Arutz Sheva,
yes.
IsraelNationalNews.com. Check them out for great content in English about Israel. And also,
And AJN, Australian Jewish News, ajn.timesofisrael.com for an Australian perspective. Also, this podcast is sponsored by Masa Israel
Yes.
Journey. Check them out, guys. Really, really highly recommended. Like I said, I came to Israel on Masa programs. MasaIsrael.org/two nice Jewish boys, spelled out TWO, nice Jewish boys. Check them out. And lastly,
we accept donations.
yes, we
so
do this
help
on
us
our free
out.
time. So if you want to help us out, 2njb.com/donate.
Thank you so much, Kfir.
Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
It was a real pleasure. Bye.
Bye bye.